Hey everybody, BTO Pro here. Today we're going to go through building a Polymer app and getting it integrated into Drupal. So some of the past ones have a little bit of magic to them, I admit, because certain things are already built. So this one's not going to do that. It's going to go kind of from, you have a site that has a web components module on it. So we're going to actually build a Polymer app, which will build a web component, and then we're going to show how you can do the new auto loading capability to wire it up to Drupal data. So if you go to Drupal.org, projects, web components, here we go. Starting to get some people using it. Cool. What you want to do is go to polymer-project.org and hit start. If you scroll down from start, you'll see get the tools. You're going to want to run this and get your Polymer CLI tool. So I already have Polymer CLI on here. And so what I'm going to do, you can see where I am. I'm in an install profile in this case. It doesn't matter where it is. It could just be, in your modules directory. It could actually be in a location off of libraries, but so I can, from there, I'm in my modules directory. Drupal doesn't care how this modules directory is laid out, but I like putting my apps in their own little apps location. From in there, I have one module in this case, so I'm going to open that. And we're going to ignore the fact that I have a module there because we're not actually using any capabilities of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into apps directory. So I've got two apps here already that I've already built, but let's make one from scratch. So again, as far as where I am, I'm in a modules directory. I'm in a module and then I'm in an apps folder. You can do sites all libraries slash polymer, or sorry, slash web components slash polymer slash apps if you wanted to make them available to everything, because we do things a little differently here. It's going to be in this one location. So what I'm going to do is type polymer init. And polymer init is going to ask if I want to build an application. Actually, I'm going to make a directory first. That would be nice. So we're going to make a new directory here, and we're going to call this CLE comments. What we're going to do is build a little application that just presents the comments, ordered by latest, right? So go into that directory, and then we'll do polymer init. Okay, and for the purposes of this, I'm going to make a Polymer 1 application. It just has to do with, it's some compatibility reasons as far as ES6 versus ES5 classes. You can look in the documentation as to why you would do one versus the other, but this is just the one that I do. So I'm going to call that CLE comments. My main element name, I'm actually going to call CLE comments as well. Brief description for visualizing comments. Okay, it's going to get some dependencies via Bower. All right. And now what that actually made, we go to Finder, is I'm in that directory, and I see now I have an CLE-comments. Then you're going to see manifest, those Bower components, an SRC directory, and then the actual elmsln CLE comments.html, which is your element itself that we're going to work against. Applications in Polymer are basically the same as singular elements. You're just orchestrating, if you will. So I'm going to open this in Sublime Text, so it's a little nicer to look at. Okay. And so the main thing you get after you make a web component or a new app in Polymer is you just get this boilerplate stuff, right? So you have an index which you could presumably go to and see what it looks like. In fact, if we go back to terminal and I'm in that directory, I can type polymer serve. And if you do -- open, it'll just open your browser automatically. And so there's what you get, right? When you do an element, there's nothing there, right? You wouldn't expect it necessarily to have, all the bells and whistles. So what you can do from there, right? I could just start writing HTML, or I could go to webcomponents.org and start searching for things that are useful. Now, it'll take some navigating, webcomponents.org. If you're familiar, with just how many modules there are in Drupal, there aren't that many elements yet. I think they just crossed 900, 914. Oh, okay. But still, a lot to search through. So, as a shortcut, anything named paper, and by the Polymer team, is going to be standardized on the material design UI specification that Google promotes. Anything in the iron family of elements. In fact, if you go to Polymer elements, you can start to see them, but you've got your iron elements, and then you've also got some platinum, gold, paper. They've kind of got this namespaced out so that you have some idea of what it does and how low in the periodic table it is, right? There's also like neon elements, which are for animation purposes. And so let's do paper, because paper's pretty good. So let's search for paper card, because I'm going to want to present these comments just as a very basic element, right? So a paper card is going to get you is this, not donuts and stuff, but just kind of the framing that, hey, you can throw an image in here, we'll slap it in as the top of it, and then there's some other things you can put in. So to get that into our component to mess with, I'm going to copy, and so just copied it to my clipboard. We're going to go back into terminal, and I'm actually going to open a new window and go back to that same location, just so that I don't have to close my running environment there. Okay, modules, apps, apps. Okay. All right, so from the directory that you're working on your Polymer app, I'm going to paste in that command. You'll see Bower install save, and then it's the repo if you're not familiar with Bower. Basically, it's going to go tap GitHub for most things, and then it's going to pull it in, make sure you have the right version, so on. So now what that's done is effectively it added into my Bower components paper. And so now there's paper card, and then anything the paper card requires. So if you want to see what paper card looks like as an element, you get import definitions at the top. See, so it pulls in iron flex layout, iron image, some paper styling, and then it gives you some examples as to how to do this accessibly. Then you can see the guts of what makes up a paper card, right? So it's got all these different attributes, and then they're basically just stomping down very little, right? It's pretty clean for the most part. So now let's actually go about using that. So what we want to do is to get this definition into ours. I'm just going to copy this import statement at the moment, and we're going to go into src elm-zln element in this file. When you set this all up, right, you have the index, but all the index is doing, if you look at it, is importing your element that's in the src folder, and then it's just putting the element on the page. And so what you really want to edit is actually the element itself. So you see in the element definition, it goes, hey, I'm importing Polymer, because it needs that in order to process. So we're going to copy, and we're just going to paste that, and then we're going to swap out Polymer with paper card and paper card. And that's all I needed to do in order to get that definition to be in scope here. So now what I can do is I can start to type paper card, and I've got a little autocomplete thing that does that part. But I can put in a paper card. And so now let's leave that for the time being. We're going to hit save, and we're going to open our little Chrome thing here, go to this little running serving element, and hey, we've got a card now, and it has some elevation to it. What I can do from there, I can adjust the elevation. Let's say I want this to be 5, and I don't have an image for it at the moment, but let's pull an image maybe from their demonstration, all right, with the donut image. So I could, find an image somewhere on the web or what have you and throw it in. It's not a huge deal, but I don't need an image to be in this case. So I'm going to put some content in there. Action. So for an action, if I want to link to someplace, right? Normal A tag as usual, but there's this cool convention in here called paper button, and a paper button gives you this nice little accessible button. So you can do tab order very easily with it. So let's just say view, right? Because the whole point is that I'm supposedly making a comment card. So my header is going to be comment title. I'm going to take out this tag. All right. And our action is going to be a link to view this comment. And then the content will fill in with some example as well. So maybe, hey, you did a great job on this submission, or whatever your feedback is, right? So it might just be a comment statement there. And then this would be my title. Let's take out the title. We're not going to supply an image for the time being. And this animated shadow false thing, I'll take that out too. I don't care about that. So elevation is 5. Awesome. All right, we're going to make a link here. And the link would point to, node/5/ and then it would be like hashtag comments or something like that, right? If you're talking from a Drupal perspective. And so I'll save this and go back and see. Well, that part changed. We got our depth increased on this comment, but you notice the link is still pretty crappy. So what happened there? Well, I can't just use paper button, right? I need to actually bring in the definition for paper button. So let's make sure first that we have paper button, and we do because it comes across with paper card to go hand in hand. So we'll paste that in, and then we'll do paper button and paper button, save. Now we get this kind of raise, and then when I click it does a burst, and if I do tabbing, right, it gets highlighting automatically. Pretty neat, huh? So it would be cool if that link didn't look that way, right? At that point, we go into normal CSS, right? So I can say, hey, card actions, or I can look at the card actions, to be perfectly honest, on the paper card itself in this little demo here, because their actions look pretty clean, right? Why doesn't my reserve button look that way? So you can see they've got paper button that has an icon on it as far as cafe reserve, which then puts a little icon in place. They don't actually have those with links wrapping them anyway. So let's look at their demo, see if maybe they have it in there anywhere. Share, you see we just have share and explore. They don't actually have links in there. You can see the different examples they have, pretty cool as far as all the different things that they rig up. And so instead of that, let's just put a normal HTML. So I could do, or CSS rather, so I could do card actions A, and we're going to do text decoration none, and color, and we're going to do red just to prove it changes it. Save. Okay. Oops, don't want to refresh that. Refresh this. Cool. So drop that off, right? Now I've got my burst, and the burst is red. But it would be cool if I didn't have to write the word red, right? Like, let's say I want it to be in line with the fact that I click this and does this burst thing, right? So let's go to paper card and the fact that this says it relies on styles. And so paper styles allows you to import things that make stuff look like it's material. It's kind of neat. And so just glancing at those briefly, right, you have default theme, you have typography, the way they do shadows. These are things that are repurposable and can be used in anything and mixed into other elements very easily. All very cool stuff. So let's look at the way that paper card does that. So if we go to paper card, open that up, and we look in paper card, we'll see paper card imports paper styles, default theme, and material styles. So let's also import those because we have the ability to. Close that one. All right, we're going to make sure our paths are the same to these items. So now we have our styling at least imported. It's not implemented, but it's imported. And then the way you implement it is you see this. You get style include paper material styles. If you want to import the CSS from, basically you're importing the style definitions from this other element, in this case material styles, then you do it this way. You kind of say, hey, style, include this other style sheet, is more or less what that's indicating. In here, you'll see there are all these different CSS variables, right, as far as applying headings and color and things like that. And there's your elevation, right, so that you could apply, elevation 5 to something and get it to look that same height as everything else, even without the paper card part. So I can get the background color, which in this case it's saying get the primary background color variable, and set it to this, right? So what we could do is, you can see how they mix in this color and then provide a default. So we could allow people to influence the color downstream in our comments here, because we want to try and make this not be this value, right? So if we look in paper styles, there's color. We go to color, HTML. We'll see that it's got this custom style, and then it's got all these CSS variables defined. And so this allows you to use the material design specifications color palette accurately every time, right? So I don't need to go, if I want to make this red, and I want to make it Google red, and then 700 as far as weighting, 100 is light, 700 is dark in this case. I can just do paper red accent A700 and know it's going to be this every time, instead of writing that all over the place, which would be annoying, and I probably screw it up at some point. So let's put that in place, right? So color is actually a variable, and the variable is called that. Now I believe that I need to actually pull in the paper styles. So if I go to paper styles in here, we can look at there's element styles, and then there's material styles. You'll see that pulls in shadows. Okay, I don't care about the shadows. Item styles. Okay, item styles pulls in color, and that's what I was looking for. So we have those color classes available to us. So because item styles pulls that in, what I should do then is I should open or import item styles and not just material styles. So I want item styles, and then here we'll do item styles, get rid of default theme. Okay, so now this will import the definition, because you start to trace this stuff. This will import the definition of paper item styles, which will then import, goes back a level with relative to itself, import color, and now I should have access to use all of these names for whatever I want. So now, instead of that red, right, we've got paper red here, and refresh. Hey, we got red. If we want it to be blue, A700, right, now we've got accent blue. And because I did accent blue, you'll notice the button also appears to have picked it up, which is pretty awesome. So now if I do pink, accent, right, now it picks up pink. And that's because of that apply value that it had. You notice some of them had apply. Well, that means it's going to pull in a color from above in the stack order and go, oh yeah, make it, basically it starts making things automatically look nice, which is awesome. So now I've got a link, a button that actually is a link that, focuses automatically in the tab order, and I could start stamping out other ones, right? So let's do view, and then we'll do one for edit probably, right? And edit might be something like, I don't know what it is actually, but it's probably like node 5 comment 6 or slash edit or something like that, right? Okay, and we'll make this edit, right? Button, let's not make that button raised. Okay, so I've got this little static thing here that has view, and we've got an edit state, and maybe we want delete as well, right? So your 3 options that you can do, and then I think this had support for an icon. Let's see if it does. I'm not positive. Whoops, it says the word edit still, so it should say delete. Okay, now we can go into the paper card element, and see that it should have support for icons. I believe it had support for an icon. Maybe I'm making that up. It was on webcomponents.org with the paper card. And icons event. Oh, that's paper icon button. Oh, obviously. So, it does get a little granular at times, and there's a bit of like, hey, I could have just reused. Oh, I made this thing. Well, I could have just reused this other one. Let's see if we actually have paper icon button already. Oh, good, we do have paper icon button. So then I can use paper icon button instead, instead of my other one. So let's import the definition again. And we're going to throw in a paper icon button instead of that. Tag and icon button, and then we're going to go up here, paste that, and we'll do icon button. Paper icon button, save. All right, go back to our little example here. It went away, but it does look differently now. And so we're going to take that button, and it's not icon delete, it's something else. So I need to look. We've got favorite, star, menu. Let's see what's in our demo for these. Right, so they do have a lot of them because they're just being pulled in from Polymer. Maybe I can make it the Polymer icon. I'm not sure where they are pulling that in from. That's neat. Okay, save. Comments. Okay, still no definition for what that is. So let's look at paper card again. This demo has icons event. Let's see if there's event there. I might need to import a icon library. Yeah, I do. Okay, so with the icons are delivered from iron icons actually. And so if I do iron icons, we can, for iron icons, see there's things like maps, a button. There's a whole ton of icons that you can draw from. You can also make your own icon sets, but let's look for delete, right? Because that's the one that we're looking for. And it would be icons delete. Maybe delete forever. That sounds really mean. Okay. So we do delete forever as our button. And the way that we use these, as you can see there, it says, hey, you got to import this maps icon or whatever that thing is. So, and they've got it done in groupings. I don't actually like the fact that they do it that way with the in groupings part, but let's pull these together. Again, we're going to check, make sure that we actually have iron icons. Iron icons, yes we do. All right, and then they've got maps icon, but that's not the one I want, because the one I want is this just icons delete forever. And so they do have one called iron icons. And so let's take and just make this iron icons. And then we're going to make this, not say the word Polymer, I'm just going to put in delete forever and see what happens. Yay! Got our trash can. The other neat thing, again, going back to the styling pass down, is I've got that paper pink, and so now if instead of that I said orange, accent 700, now I've got my raise button, I've got this button, and I've got my paper button for deleting something, all is the same thing. The other neat thing you can do, right, if I have a button, I probably want like a tooltip or some alt data or something, right, a title, right, so that if I was going through, it would indicate what that is, because I might not know, hey, this means delete forever. So another element you can use is paper, and search through the paper elements real quick. It's a UI element, I believe, and a tooltip. So if we look at paper tooltip, demo it. All right, this would be, I hover over something that says, hey, wake up, idiot. So let's see if we have that one in there. I don't think I do in this case, in which we'll have to get it via Bower components again. And so we go to paper, styles, toolbar, but not tooltip. Okay, so let's get tooltip so that we can use it. And tooltip is really easy. Put in. Let's copy this example so that I don't have to look it up again. But so we're going to take this, get our Bower component or dependencies, go back to a repo, paste that in there. Going to go and get paper tooltip. Awesome, got paper tooltip. And then I'm going to paste this in, and we're going to do paper tooltip. Okay, paper tooltip.html. So now the definition is in scope. I'm going to take my paper icon button, and below there, we're going to put in that example from before. And so got my paper tooltip, and you get this for button. And this is both an accessibility thing as well as triggering, so you can have multiples. So this is saying kind of like, hey, when this is focused, right, activate this. So I'm going to give this an ID, and the ID for this is going to be delete. And then we're going to say this is for delete, and delete can't undo, right? That should imply it's gone forever. Okay, and so instead of click me, take that out, save, and we're going to refresh, go back to our comment. Now when I hover over, I get delete can't undo. Pretty cool, right? Now I can start to put those on the other ones for some design consistency. All right, so we'll do for delete, and then in this case we'll do equals edit, and in this case we'll do ID equals view, and we'll say this is for view, and this is for edit, edit the comment, right? Or edit comment, you know, that extra craft in there. And then this one might say view comment. This might say delete comment forever. Right? Make it a little more actionable. So we got our view, edit, and delete buttons. And now I've applied tooltips to each of those. Now I don't really like how that's really jerky, right? I'm gonna move this around. So I'd kind of like it to animate. And so if we look at paper tooltip has some options on it as far as its properties. And if we look at the tooltip, there's animate config, animate delay, entry animation. There's a lot of different properties associated with this that you can put in. If we look at the demo again, right there is fades in very nicely. So let's see what they put into theirs. Copy this block, paste it, and you'll see we have an offset on these paper tooltips. So we're going to say, hey, offset on this is 0. For our delete, we don't want them to offset at all. You know, I don't really need to put them. It's kind of neat, like you can start to group things based on the way that helps you, as opposed to the requirements of some goofy, you know, nuanced library. Like if I were to do this via jQuery, this would be a total pain in the butt, and I know because I've done them before. So let's get that offset 0 in there. Neat. So we've got our tooltip offset 0. All right, close that off, but it still doesn't have our animation in there. So let's see how they did that, right, with the animation part. So they have it working in their demo. And so what I can do, I can go to view on GitHub. For the source, we can hit demo, and let's see what their demo looks like. We can see they pull in neon animation, right? And then we can see they have an animation delay of 0 on all of these. And so let's take that animation delay 0, and we're going to also have to pull in that neon animation library. Because in this case, neon animation isn't required for it to work, but you know, because it's adding some additional effects to it. See, so I do have the dependency of neon animation, but I haven't imported it. It's because I haven't imported it, I can't apply it to anything. So let's get that in place with the animations. So power component, got my neon animation in there, and then we want to make this do the animation delay of 0, so it's not going to fade in, which is a property of it. And then save. Now, my comment card, hey! You see it's right on top of it, right? Because I said offset 0. I should be able to inspect this. It's another fun part of doing development this way. So I have paper tooltip there. I think I can focus this. Oh, I thought I could focus it and have the have it show the element, but instead let's do offset of 10. I guess you can't update. Some of them you can. It gets reflected to the attribute and it notifies it, so that you can update it in real time and see what happens. So let's get rid of that offset 0 part. I don't really like it resting right on top of it. Save. Put it up there. Cool. Okay, it's a little spacing now. That's a result. So see, now I've got this wired up. I can tab through these and it appears. Pretty cool. If you're using paper button or paper icon button, though, for accessibility, they also recommend you do the tab index 0, or sorry, tab index -1, which will then skip this item, and I'll show you what the difference is here in a second. So what I'm going to do then is, because this wouldn't actually receive the focus, I'm going to put the IDs on the paper button. I'll show you why momentarily. So place it on all 3 of those, save, and now I'm not going to refresh. I'll show you accessibility-wise what the issue was there. So if I hit tab, I'm on the A tag itself, and now when I tab again, now I'm on the paper button as far as what's being focused on, right? You can see paper button and versus the tag. Now I refresh the page, so now it should be fixed. So let's go into that. Okay, now when I tab, see the difference? It's not doing the global highlighting, it's going straight to the item itself, but I still can click this. You'll see the URL changes, which, you know, it doesn't go anywhere, but it changes the URL to reflect that it is, the paper button is bubbling up and hitting the thing above it. So built this rather sophisticated little widget here with, you know, all these nice little transitions and color changing very easily in this quick little demo here. So the next part of this is going to be, how do we go from this to something that's in Drupal, right? Because I haven't done any wiring. I put stuff in manually into this element. And so next video is going to talk about the properties portion of this and how we start to get data binding so we can kind of program these, if you will, and then start to get into the template stamping so that we can stamp this down multiple times.